Hi, everyone. This is Susan from BuzzSumo. Welcome to the webinar. I just wanted to say hello, let you know that we are indeed here, and we will be starting in just a couple of minutes. So hang on, and we'll be right back with you. Hi, everyone. This is Susan from BuzzSumo. Just wanted to say hello. We're going to start at the top of the hour. Just hang on for a few minutes longer, and we will get started with Lee. Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Susan Muller. I work in marketing here at BuzzSumo, and I am thrilled that you are here to learn with me about how best answer content drives B2B marketing results. Today's session is going to be led by Lee Odden. Hi, Lee. Good to have you. Yeah, I've seen the presentation slides he has, and I'm just really thrilled about learning more about what Lee has been thinking about in terms of B2B strategy and how it can be driven by understanding customer questions. Just a couple of things before I introduce Lee and we get started. The first is oftentimes people will want to know if they're going to get a recording of today's session, and you will. So no worries there. You'll get a recording from BuzzSumo. It usually takes about a day for us to get that out. So no worries if it doesn't show up immediately after the session. We will get that to you. Also, if you have questions, Lee's offered to take those at the end of the session. So feel free to just drop them into the chat box as you're listening to Lee's presentation. I'll keep an eye on them, and we'll circle back at the end and answer as many of them as we can during the time that we have. So There will be a recording, and if you have questions, please put them in the chat box. I will be happy to circle back to those at the end, and Lee will help us out with answers to those questions. So again, welcome. Today, Lee Odden is our guest. He is the CEO and co-founder of Top Rank Marketing, which is based in Minnesota. And Top Rank has a tremendous number of clients in both B2B and B2C areas, including those who are on the Fortune 1000 list. I have appreciated all of Lee's insight into B2B marketing at the various conferences that he speaks at. If you're ever at a conference where Lee is speaking, you definitely want to check out his session. A couple of things that I always appreciate are how practical his insights are, and how much the things that he'll describe can be used right away to help push your marketing forward. We were talking just a little bit before the session, and a couple things that you should know about the Top Rank Marketing blog. I've gone ahead and put a link to that in the chat box. You should check on that. The Top Rank Marketing blog has just had a birthday. It's 15 years old, and one of Lee's claims to fame is that he has written approximately 1.3 million words in the course of that blog. So definitely check that out. And I've also put a link to a book that Lee's written called Optimize, about how to use a combination of social, SEO, and content marketing. So check out both of those resources. Welcome, Lee. I'm thrilled to listen to what you have to say about best answer content strategy. Oops, turn the mic on. Got to get the mic. Here we go. Let's try that again. Welcome, Lee.
Well, thank you, Susan. It's always awesome to do a BuzzSumo seminar, and I'm always happy to see your smiling face and your amazing Icelandic sweater. Handmade, of course, handcrafted, bespoke, and all that. Wonderful. And also very, very excited to imagine all the people that are listening in for how best answer content can drive B2B marketing results. So it's going to be a great 45 minutes or so.
Yes, can't wait.
Well, cool. Well, let's hit to it. So imagine this situation, right? You've got the marketing team around a table about to launch this amazing campaign where, you know, we're excited, or the people involved are excited about sharing with the world how awesome, how great the company is. Everyone on the team has worked really hard on this campaign. Maybe there's a promotion in it for somebody. And of course, the guys and gals at design, they want to submit it for an award of some kind. All right, we're ready. We're going to launch. And then, then what happens? What? We've given a million reasons why we are so awesome. Where are the leads? And maybe some bubbles pop when it comes to expecting a promotion. But of course, design still thinks they can submit it for an award. Unfortunately, this is something, while many marketers have become more sophisticated in how they approach content marketing, there's still a lot of legacy programs, old habits in being brand egocentric, right? Only wanting to promote and satisfy the needs of the brand with information, as opposed to being empathetic to customers. And in this situation, the problem is this brand is not the best answer for the customers it's trying to engage. It's only the best answer for itself and its own needs, to get a promotion, to win an award, or what have you. Another big problem that we're dealing with today, of course, is a growing state of information overload. In the US alone, people are confronted with an average of 63 gigabytes of media on a daily basis. And of course, on top of that, there's all these push outbound efforts at getting buyer attention and trying to meet those quarterly, lead gen or revenue goals. And it really is overwhelming for consumers on the consumer side, but certainly for buyers on the B2B side. So that's a little bit of a challenge that we need to address. Now, the third big problem I'm going to talk about is a state of being that we want to avoid at all costs. And of course, that is called the hamster wheel of content mediocrity. I'm sure there's a fun acronym there, but we'll stick with, we want to avoid mediocrity at all costs, right? So there are some things I've literally heard or close to what I've literally heard people say. We have 1,000 SEO keywords. Let's make sure we make a web page for every single one, just a small one, 200 words or so. Or why do we need to write our own posts? We can outsource to this offshore company for only $35 an article. It'll be amazing. Or you know what? Let's just copy the features and benefits from the sales materials. That can be good enough for a blog post, right? What else do they need? Or look, we've got to follow the formula. We've got to do exactly one ebook, 3 blog posts, 1 infographic, and 12 social shares. No more, no less, every single time. It doesn't matter what customer segment this is for. It doesn't matter what we're selling. We've got to do the exact same thing because that's the formula for success. All of these lead to only one destination, and that is the hamster wheel of content mediocrity. I better see some tweets with this image. All right. We all know we can do better. I believe Ann Handley when she says we can do better, people. We need to create ridiculously good content. Content that is useful, enjoyable, and inspired. But also content that's easy to find, right? 23%, only 23% of CMOs feel that they are producing the right content and delivering it at the right time and in the right format. And that's not a lot. That is a really, really big problem when it comes to marketing effectiveness, right? What does that grade? An A, a B, a C, a D? No, I think it grades an F. So with more empathy towards what buyers actually want versus accentuating our own skills, doing what's always been done and following status quo, we need to be more empathetic toward what the buyer actually wants. And buyers want easy to find information that answers their questions. They want to know what solutions are possible, what solutions make the most sense for me, and who is the best solution for me to go with in terms of making a decision. And the days of, following a funnel are basically reduced to a cartoon, right? There's no such thing as a funnel. There's no linear start, middle, and end of a buying experience, especially when it comes to B2B, where we have, 3-month, 6-month, 18-month sales cycles. We don't have just one individual making this decision. We have buying committees. We have multiple peoples, multiple stakeholders in different departments, all contributing to a set of recommendations that move upstream to an executive. It gets really complicated. What we have today is a little more like spaghetti, where people move forward and backwards across departments and information is shared and consolidated and recommendations are made. And it looks nothing like a linear process. And so it's really important that we understand this is the state of customer acquisition and engagement in the B2B world. And in order for us to differentiate, in order for us to create meaningful experiences, we have to focus on something. And we have to focus on the customer, but we have to focus on utility and experience. We have to focus on being the best answer for that customer, for what they're looking for in all of the places where they are looking, not just in search, right? So you've got to think or reflect. I think it's important. Is your marketing about creating content, or are you about creating answers, right? This is something that's really important to reflect on as you think about what your customers really want. They don't care what your marketing and sales objectives are for the quarter. They don't care about anything other than satisfying their own information needs, right? So as marketers, it's in our best interest to understand what those information needs are. So at Top Rank Marketing, we follow and we aspire to follow this integrated content marketing model, where it is the intersection of employing content-centric programs, right, that are integrated with search, with social, with advertising, and working with industry influencers. So that starts with strategy. It follows on with audits and understanding the current situation. Obviously, there's a planning mechanism, there's creation, there's promotion, and then there's measurement and performance optimization, right? And that's what we do for an incredible portfolio of B2B brands, including companies like SAP and Dell and GE and so forth, with, of course, an incredible group of talented marketers. And it is through my experience working with this great team, I'm sharing a picture of, and with these brands, that I'm going to be sharing the following advice in this presentation. I'm going to talk about 4 key areas. First, I'm going to talk about what it takes to create a best answer content strategy. I'm going to talk about some very practical tips around content planning. And I'm going to talk about something called Power Pages, which is one part of a best answer content program. And I'm also going to give you some really meaty, very specific tactical tips on how repurposing and promotion fit within architecting an efficient best answer distribution strategy and promotion strategy. So let's get to it. So when it comes to best answer content strategy, we actually don't have to have a beard. I know it seems like that. I've got all these pictures of people with beards. I've got a beard. No, you don't have to have, you can have a naked face. It's okay. It's all good. But the first thing I wanted to focus on is being the best answer for customers is more than just being found in search engine results. And clearly it's important to be, it makes sense. And this is where best answer strategy came out of is the idea of what holistic view can we take to create useful experiences for customers in search. But obviously people are looking for information in a lot of other places. Best answer is a promise that a brand makes to be easy to find, useful, and actionable wherever it is that customer is influenced, right? And there are a number of B2B brands that have done a fantastic job at becoming the best answer in their respective categories, right? These are brands make that are topically specific, creating a consistent stream of evidence that they have expertise, but also utility and creating useful experiences for customers so that, when they have a need, these are the first choice brands that those buyers will look to. And you can achieve the same thing. And it starts with some thoughtfulness. It starts with thinking about the kinds of questions that your buyers have that they need to have answered in specific channels in order to buy, right? As they understand what a thing is, what their options are, what the features are that would work best for them, what the best solution is, and so forth. These are all elements of thoughtfulness that make sense in a best answer strategy. Now, this is a data-informed approach to content marketing, and the usefulness of your content is really contingent on the usefulness and insight that can come out of the data. That data can come from many different sources. Clearly, it can come from search, keyword research, CRM data, and other customer insights, social media data, web analytics data, primary research with your customers, and you can, reflect your insights from frontline employees or product marketing manager, folks who are really close to the product on your end, or even reconcile against brand messaging and that sort of thing. All that data can be synthesized into insights that are going to be important for you to focus on. And focus is very, very important with a best answer marketing effort, right? Because specificity rises to the top. It rises to the top in search. It rises to the top in social sharing. It rises to the top in the consideration set when people are looking for solutions. But what's also important is that you have the related topics to that primary or what I'm going to call a best answer topic that you're focusing on. And when you have these insights about what it is that customers care about in terms of their information needs when they're making choices along the buyer journey, then you can use those insights and map them to all the different types of content and all the different channels where customers are actually looking. Subsequently, you become the best answer. Now, this customer-centric approach pays off. In a study by Marketing Profs and Content Marketing Institute, 90% of the top performing B2B content marketers are in the habit of putting their audience's information needs ahead of their own company's promotional message, compared to 56% of the least successful. It means 56% of the least successful were focusing on their own information needs, kind of like that example I shared up front, sharing all the ways that their brand is awesome, as opposed to understanding what customers actually want. Now, there's a very simplistic model for data collection when it comes to customer insights that can inform a best answer content program. They have to do with discovery, consumption, and action. So from a discovery standpoint, the idea here is to understand what is it that your customers, your specific customer segment actually, what are they searching on, right? What comes to mind when they search? What are they talking about on the social web? What publications do they subscribe to? What newsletters do they subscribe to? Who are they influenced by, right? When you capture all those insights, then that can inform a more intelligent content marketing program. You also want to understand consumption preferences. What types of information are they interested in? What formats of information? What style? I mean, is it images? Is it video? Is it long form, white papers? Is it short form blog posts? Is it practical? Is it tactical? Is it strategic? What devices are they consuming this information on, right? Understanding these customer content consumption preferences can inform a more intelligent content marketing program. And then we come to action. What are the triggers that will inspire them to take the action that you want them to take, right? And of course, that starts with understanding what is it that they would like to achieve. By delivering experiences that satisfy the customer's interests, then you can lead them, or you can help them lead themselves to the conclusion to do the thing you want them to do, whether that's simply to share, whether it's to download, to do a trial, to do a demo, to actually inquire, set a sales appointment, to purchase, or maybe even to refer or advocate your brand. Collecting all this information is at the cornerstone of a best answer content program. So what does this look like in action? I'm going to give you a very simple example. There's a company called Profix, and they are a software company in the financial planning and accounting industry. They're adding machine learning AI capabilities to their finance software and wanted to create some affinity in the marketplace between the idea of machine learning and finance. And they want to be the brand everyone thinks of, or they want to be the best answer for that intersection of finance and machine learning. So in this particular campaign, a simulated voice assistant was created, like Alexa or Siri. Well, this one was called Penny, and she lived on a microsite, and the microsite incorporated a variety of topics that were sourced through customer insight, primarily through search data. So the content that existed in this campaign was informed by search topics relevant to the customers that we were after, right? So all the different AI and finance-related topics in here were sourced from customer insight. And at the same time, we had industry influencers and experts contribute their expertise, because what better way to create affinity for your brand than to invite people who already have that expertise and authority to collaborate with you and make something for the greater good of the industry. By association, your brand then becomes relevant for those topics. So we use the search topics as some of the topical criteria for selecting the industry influencers who contributed content. And of course, we use those same topics in the questions we asked those influencers so that we were generating topically relevant answers. Or one might also say search relevant answers. So what happened? By using just one data point relevant to customer insight, we had over 180% increase in views and over a 600% increase in engagement because of the topical relevance that resonated not only with the influencers who contributed, but especially with the audiences that the influencers promoted to, the audiences that were promoted to via social and other means, and the audiences who found this asset through search. But we can do more. There's so much more that we can do to make ourselves the best answer. So this is where I'm going to drill down into the idea of a best answer topic, or a BAT, right? Best answer topics are a reflection of the research we've done about our customers, reconciled with what it is that we want to be the best answer for, right? Because again, we're empathetic to the customer's information needs, not just our own. The idea here is to surround our customer with content that is easy to find, that provides utility, and actually creates a great experience for them. This is content they're pulling themselves to, right? We're not inundating them with this content. And for the most part, this is content they're pulling themselves to in their pursuit for answers. So whether it's search, whether it's social, whether it's content programs, industry media, earned media, whether it's industry influencers, or whether it's highly targeted advertising, best answer topics should be reflected with some consistency across all the channels. What's the effect? You become the best answer for wherever your customer is looking. So architecting this as a model, especially as it relates to the specific interests, pain points that customers might have at different stages of the buying cycle are something that balance the demand of on the topic from the buying public with the relevance to the buyer stage, right? So you can take a look at what types of search keywords. I mean, this actual diagram isn't specific to actual keywords or an example, but it gives you the types of things that you'd want to consider relative to SEO, social, and content at different stages, from awareness consideration to purchase to retention and advocacy. And so with these kinds of broad insights, you can drill down into the very specific questions and answers that will make sense for a specific buyer segment. In this case, we're calling him Ted, right? And the way we're going to publish this information is through a hub and spoke. Now, hub and spoke publishing and distribution model is something we've been talking since before we published Optimize, which is published in 2012, written in 2011. So it's been a long time. And here we're talking about something that is both SEO friendly and buyer friendly. B2B buyer friendly. So it's search friendly because we have our primary topics surrounded by supporting topics, supported by related topics. And of course, all roads or links point back to that central destination. That becomes the best answer in search. But at the same time, B2B buyers like to binge, right? As they're educating themselves through the buying journey, right? They're going to want to drill deep into a topic. And this kind of architecture satisfies that insatiable need for drilling down into a topic, its derivative topics, everything they need to know to lead themselves to the conclusion that they need to make a decision. Now, what does this look like with actual keywords or with an actual topic? And I'm picking on accounting software here, and you'll see lots of other examples relevant to accounting software in the presentation. So at the hub, right, this is our almost encyclopedic treatment of the topic. Usually it's what we call a power page, something that goes really deep on the primary topic, the primary landing page, if you will, if it's on your website, supported by related topics. So in this case, it's other topics relevant to our customer audience, small business accounting, online accounting software, specialized accounting software for Mac, and so forth. And then the derivatives off of that are even more specific topics. Now, all these are actually generated off of a combination of expressions of customer interest through search keyword research and actual question research, which I'm going to drill down into. As a result, we are mapping out a best answer content strategy. Now, I said before, being the best answer is more than search, but search certainly plays a huge role in probably, one of the most valuable experiences you can create for a buyer, and that is being there at the very moment of need, right? And obviously, there's some best practices I think a lot of people are familiar with when it comes to SEO and search optimization. Obviously, you want to be focused on topics that are in demand, that are specific. Obviously, you've got to create content that is more useful than other websites. You've got to show social proof. You've got to be credible. You've got to create signals of credibility, whether they be social proof on page or links from external sources pointing into you. Obviously, your content's got to be high quality. You want to create opportunities for engagement, whether that means including interactive elements or other visually engaging elements, calculators, whatever. Obviously, your content's got to be device friendly and accessible, and it's got to load really fast. Those are some of the simplest things you can do to make sure you're the best answer, obviously, in Google. And then the cool thing about best answer content is that best answer content is great SEO. Now, here's an example of a site that ranks pretty highly for accounting software. And as we take a look at that page, we can see that they're leveraging keywords in topics, keywords and topic of interest in title tags and H1s, and they're doing so in a way that will inspire clicks. They're including page features that could increase engagement, things that are interactive or visually stimulating. They're providing comprehensive content on specific on this topic and subtopics, and really providing comprehensive look at what we need to know about accounting software, right? But what else is there when it comes to SEO? So one thing I've started to see pop up is an acronym AEO, which is interesting. And it's kind of a reflection of the increased consumer behavior of using voice for search using virtual or using voice assistants, smart speakers, and that sort of thing. I thought it was interesting. By 2020, 70 million US households will have smart speakers. 55% of those in the US will have smart speakers by 2022, which is an incredible change in how we access information, right? So we have to be empathetic to that relative to marketing, right? So something that Chi Lo and Jason Barnard have been advocating is this idea of, a search engine is your 10 blue links and a lot of ads and all those other things, but an answer engine is really what the experience is when it comes to voice search, right? Where we're only given not 10 options, but we're given just one option or just a small number of options. And in a way, it's a lot harder to be the best answer when it comes to an answer engine experience. But this is something that obviously, if we want to generate revenue through searchers that are looking for B2B solutions, we've got to understand how to do that. And some of the tips that Chi and Jason recommend is to clearly communicate your purpose through markup, right? Use semantic HTML5, follow schema best practices for structured markup to categorize or characterize, I should say, your information, your code, if you will, and through code, the content of your web pages. And then obviously establish credibility, as I've kind of mentioned as a general best practice. And that can mean things like making sure you have visibility on review sites. There are B2B focused review sites, certainly lots of software advice, for example, G2 Crowd and Trustpilot and others that will review B2B solutions. Getting links from trusted sources and also correcting inaccuracies. Clearly, if Google can tell there are errors in your content, why would they make you the best answer? So those are some best practices when it comes to answer engine optimization, something for you to watch. Now, another, nuance, if you will, when it comes to SEO is PAA. People also ask. Moz, according to Moz, tracking features of search results pages, people also ask is a feature that appears in 79% of search results. Well, how do we get in there, right? And there's some really good tips here. I think it really has to do with markup, right? Following new schema markup formats for questions, how-to, and Q&A pages, right? So if you can if you have that kind of content and you can use markup to make it even easier for Googlebot to understand, then you will do a lot better, or you'll have a lot better chance of showing up in that feature of content recommendations being made by Google. And obviously, you've got to have questions and answers on your site. When you publish those questions and answers, use normal language, right? Don't try and be too smart, and certainly don't try and be too salesy, or salesy at all for that matter. It's got to be useful content. So just a little bit of not a detour, but a little deep dive into some of the things to consider relative to best answer content in search. So keep that in mind, answer engine optimization and PAA. But of course, there is more to the world of information discovery than just search. And so we'll get back to a broader content marketing type of example. So in terms of how best answer topics can be, direct contributors not only to industry awareness, but also to revenue, I'm going to show you this example of a software company called Cherwell. Now, Cherwell is an IT service management company, and Gartner would call them a challenger brand. They're not in the upper right-hand quadrant, they're in the upper left-hand quadrant. They're competing against much larger companies. So they had this objective of creating more credible awareness for their brand and also generating leads. So what better way to become more credible than, again, working with people who are already credible, who already have authority and credibility in the industry, partnering with them, collaborating with them to co-create content that serves broader industry interest, and by association, you create more credibility for your brand. And that's exactly what happened. So we're working with industry influencers here to contribute their expertise around IT service management and a report that Cherwell had published. Now, insights and research were the starting point for this particular campaign. And we created what we call a RITHM report. A RITHM report is basically some of the steps I mentioned already, where we're getting customer insight. We're understanding for a particular customer segment, and there are 5 different customer segments that were targeted in different campaigns here. But for the CTO, we were looking at who influences the CTO, what kind of influencers influence the CTO, what search keywords is she using, what social channels is she spending time on, what industry publications is she reading, what newsletters is she subscribing to, what types of content does she prefer. Using all of those insights, we're able to architect a 2-phase campaign. Phase 1 is a frictionless campaign. We're trying to create, because we're trying to create as much distribution as possible around these ideas, because again, we're trying to create affinity for a challenger brand to become so credible they're compared to the tier 1 brands in the industry. So we want to make sure that everyone can access this thought leadership content that makes them, by association with industry influencers, credible for the topics at hand, the best answer topics at hand. So with a power page, and again, I'm going to talk more about that in a little bit, we put an ungated ebook, embedded an ungated ebook, and of course, promotion channels was a hub and spoke model, the things that you would normally do, paid social, paid search, social, brand distribution channels, email, and of course, influencers. That was followed up with a phase 2 campaign that was gated, and we used more visual assets to promote that second campaign asset, where we were able to capture names, which were then used to nurture or used to fuel a nurture program to lead them to the next step. So this was a sequenced content campaign. Because we were working with industry influencers, in this case, again, the search keywords, the keyword research we did not only informed the topics, but they also helped inform the influencers that we picked, right? And so we published a list of industry influencers to get on their radar, and we followed up with those people that we listed on this blog post, which is one of the most popular of the year for them, by inviting them to contribute their expertise relative to this report. So a smaller number, not 25, a 12 or 15, contributed their expertise relative to the report, and then their insights were also used to contribute to a power page and blog posts, and were made into ingredient-sized content or micro content for social promotion. The ebook or even the blog post served as a hub in a hub and spoke model for distribution, right? So we have this focal point that goes deep on the topic. That's the center, that's the hub. And then we have these distribution channels and derivative ideas of the best answer topic used to promote. And again, all roads lead back to that central point. What happened? Because of the topical relevance, again, based on customer insights in the RITHM report, we had over 400% more sharing happening here than we had according to our benchmark. And this one campaign actually was so successful, it represented 22% of all sales pipeline for the entire year for this company. So very, very effective implementation of customer-centric insights to provide best answer content in all the places where customers are looking. So there's a lot of opportunities here when it comes to customer insights, right? And I like to think of it as, what are the customer centers of influence, right? What are the influences, not just the influencers, to the customer as they go through that journey of understanding the nature of their problem, understanding what their options are, what the best option might be for them specifically, making recommendations to their executives, then ultimately making a decision. What are the centers of influence? So it's people, it's content, it's publications, it's a lot more than just search. And that is where a best answer strategy can be the most effective. Now let's talk about topic research and content planning. How do we put this stuff into action? You know, people are used to, who've been around a while, having to come up with these obscure sequences of words in Google, hoping that Google can then do its job and deliver us useful information. But that's really changed now. And I literally typed in accounting software, small business, low cost, and Google auto-completed it to what is the best low-cost accounting software, small business. I added the question mark for my screenshot here. But I think that's remarkable. Google's already thinking of search queries in the form of questions. And we all know, we've all heard that queries are becoming longer and longer and longer. And as behaviors with things like phones become more long form and question formatted, that is manifesting through desktop experiences as well. So how do we research best answer content in this sort of context? Well, there are a couple of steps. The first thing we do is we survey or research customers. That's either primary research, where we're literally asking them survey questions, or we look at CRM data or data that can be captured from customers and prospects. And then out of that information, we identify clusters of topics, and we call those best answer topics. Then we're going to fine tune and validate those best answer topics by popping them into a keyword research tool, because we want this to be something that's in demand that people are actively looking for, not just talking about when they fill out forms or when they answer our survey questions. Then we're going to use what we validate through keyword research, and we're going to bring those refined topics into a research search engine, a question research process, right? And the question forms that we're able to identify, we can then map those to different stages of the buying cycle. In other words, we've now found topics and subsequent questions people are actually asking relevant to your solutions. And now we're going to map them to when they're just becoming aware of a problem, when they're considering options, and when they're making a decision. And that translates into a best answer content plan. So obviously, like I said, you can ask your actual customers questions. I know a lot of people probably wouldn't do that, but you could. Another thing is to look at secondary data. So one of my favorites is to look at web forms that have been completed. Now, if you're tagging the forms, if you're tagging the data that comes in through lead gen forms and that sort of thing, then you'll know which of the people who completed inquiry forms have actually turned into customers. Even if you don't have that, this is useful. So you can aggregate all the text that people have filled in when they describe the nature of their problem on your web forms and your lead gen forms, and you can bring that into a text analysis tool. And Google has a natural language processing tool that it's a text analysis tool in the category of what you might need. But it can cluster the most commonly cited topics and that people are asking about when they fill out your lead gen forms, right? And then you can use that to inspire your subsequent validation through keyword research tools. Another thing you can do to operationalize the collection of customer insight relative to topics is to ask your frontline employees in sales and customer service to let you know what the most commonly asked questions are, right? And what topics are people actually asking about. You can even ask them to BCC a special email account that you create whenever they answer commonly asked questions. And that way you'll then have this bundle, this growing universe of content that you can do text analysis on. So once we've collected our raw keyword or topic data, then we can validate that by bringing those into a keyword research tool. And I think anyone who's SEO savvy is familiar with lots of different keyword research tools. SEMRush offers a magical keyword research tool, not reject, keyword research tool. Obviously, tools like Moz have a keyword research. Whatever you want to use something. And this is really good, like I said, for validating to what degree are people actively looking through search engines for these topics. And understanding them relative to the different stages of the buying cycle is very, very interesting. So here I have I simplified and created just 4 stages: awareness, interest, consideration, and action. And it's really interesting. I was taking a look at BuzzSumo to find out how many questions are there that people are actually asking through content that BuzzSumo crawls and presents in its search results for each of these different stages of the buying cycle. And from an awareness, people are wanting to know what is a thing, right? There are over 11 million questions and over 400 topics. When people are at the interest stage, how does a thing work, right? They're literally posting questions, over 7 million questions and over 450 topics. From a consideration phase, like how does it compare? Over 1 million questions being asked, and where do I buy X, right? Almost 1 million questions being asked, right? This is all in BuzzSumo's question analyzer tool. So if you can take a keyword, right, the keywords you just researched, from your customers and validated through a keyword research tool. And then you add modifiers like tips, like so accounting software tips, accounting software advice, accounting software suggestions, recommendations, experience with accounting software. You get the idea. You add all these modifiers in a question research tool, and it's going to surface some really cool ideas for the questions that people are actually asking about those topics. Like I said, question research with BuzzSumo's question analyzer is great because it's pulling data from forums, from QA sites, from Reddit and places like that. There are other question research tools like Storybase, Serps, Answer the Public that are pulling in data from autocomplete, from search engines and from social and other locations. The whole idea is to bring those SEO validated best answer topics from your customers and to use them to tease out what actual question forms are manifesting as search queries or as forum questions and out there on the social web that you can then use to map to different stages of the buying cycle. So let's go back to accounting software. So we've done some research on accounting software, and we find that the most commonly co-occurring expressions along with accounting software are small business, best business, and online. So as we understand our customer and their different ideas about we understand the different stages of the customer buying cycle, in this case, awareness, consideration, and purchase, then we can research what questions people are asking that best fit each of those different stages. So these are literally queries that people are typing in to SEMRush, keyword magic tool, relative to accounting software. So do I need accounting software for my small business? That's an awareness level question. What is the best accounting software for small business? That's a consideration level question. And where can I buy small business accounting software online? That's a purchase question. Obviously, this kind of exercise is what you then do before you're mapping these to the different stages. Before you're mapping these to a content plan. Okay, I'll slow down a little bit. I'm apparently trying to talk too fast. All right. So let's drill down into just awareness stage. How does this manifest in terms of coming up with topic ideas? So let's pick on, do I need accounting software for my small business? So if that is the focal point of our content initiative here, what different kinds of content can we create to become the best answer wherever the customer is looking relative to the question, do I need accounting software for my small business? By reconciling or by digging down more specifically into what that means for these different types of content, we can come up with our content ideas, right? So hopefully this is where the magic is happening in terms of reconciling the customer research, the keyword validation, and then the question research that we were doing, right? When should a business invest? Are you ready? How it can help you, do's and don'ts, and then vertically specific like retail or real estate and so forth, right? So hopefully this model is useful to you. And of course, a little word cloud form isn't particularly efficient. So you would translate that research into a tabular format where you're identifying your topic titles, the stage of the buying cycle that particular article or blog post or media asset is for, what audience it's relevant to, what topics or keywords it's optimized for, what influencers you might include. You don't have to, but that's a good idea. What social topics, what media you'll include, and so on and so forth, right? So hopefully that gives you an idea on how to map these to the plan. So what kind of content are we going to create? Well, at the center is the power page. And let's talk about what a power page is. A power page is a very deep treatment of a particular topic that you want to be the best answer for, right? This goes really, really deep. It's optimized for search, but especially for people. And it's literally positing the questions that you found and then answering them. Don't have to do that, but sometimes it's a good idea. You're also sharing related topics. You're including third-party expertise and social proof. You are empathizing with a buyer pain, and you're painting your brand as the way forward. You're also including engaging elements, whether it's video, visuals, tools, interactive elements, audio, what have you. And of course, you have relevant and appropriate calls to action throughout. Not gratuitous, but meaningful. So let's see what that looks like in action. So this company sharing an example of is focused on being the best answer for an expression, field service engagement. And as you can see, when this Google query is run, they are absolutely the best answer for field service engagement, a very specific term relevant to their industry. So let's break that power page down. What is it that makes this a power page? Well, they're using the keyword of interest in the title tag and in the H1 format at the top of the page, as you do with good or best practices SEO. They're using engaging visual elements, and in this case, animated statistics. They're using customer-centric and keyword-optimized copy. They're embedding video for a more engaging experience. They're including relevant calls to action. And they're literally answering best answer topic questions throughout, right? And of course, keywords have a role because it is search optimized. They're giving practical advice on the best answer topic, and they're including third-party experts. So this gives credibility, and because they're using keywords in the questions they're asking the influencers, they're literally inspiring organically relevant answers and content from those influencers that is optimized for humans, optimized for search. And we continue our practical advice about the best answer topic. We're linking to other useful resources on the brand's domain, and we have a final call to action to an ebook that drills down even deeper into the best answer topic. So this is a very robust, it's a visual, engaging, and in this case, it was very successful power page, right? This was implemented in a hub and spoke model. And in this case, because we did have an influencer involved, we have a power page, which I just shared with you, that was connected to an ebook. And then there you see our distribution channels where derivative topics were also addressed. And it's not always pretty like a sunflower, these hub and spoke models. Sometimes they look like what you're looking at now because you have a couple of different assets that complement each other. In this case, there are over 200 ebook downloads, 570,000 in sales qualified leads, and over 1.5 million in pipeline revenue associated with this one campaign. So there are three fundamental steps to power pages: ideation, creation, and promotion, right? With ideation, again, we're taking our best answer topic and we're reconciling that with our knowledge of what it is that customers actually want to know about. How does the brand want to be known? And we're also being accountable to SEO. And we're also using those keyword ideas to maybe bring some influencers or third-party experts. Also, you don't have to be a third-party expert to be an influencer. You can be an employee of the company. So it's good to look at internal influencers as well. From a template, from a creation standpoint, obviously we want to empathize with customer pain. We want to show our brand solution as the way forward to the promised land. We want to show social proof. We want to give practical, useful information. We want to create engagement, third-party expertise, calls to action, the drill if you're familiar with these kinds of templates. And then from a promotion standpoint, obviously we want to cross-promote. I can't stress enough the value of earned media. It's not enough just to promote through brand social or paid. It's really important to editorially get placements in other industry publications if you can. That speaks volumes for authoritative representation of your brand as a best answer. It doesn't just have to be brand content that has the best answer message. You can be the best answer on other people's content as well, right? Now I'm going to wrap things up with some practical tips on repurposing and promoting best answer ingredient content. And that starts by this idea of ingredient content. So you might have broad strokes, universal truths for particular campaigns. So let's say you've got a campaign that is focused on promoting accounting software to a small business audience, right? So we are addressing the questions that the small business audience has around accounting software with this particular campaign. But we can deconstruct the universal truths out of this campaign, right? The individual facts that are universally true, regardless of what customer segment they apply to. And we can use those to assemble and repurpose, if you will, customized or personalized micro campaigns to very, very specific industry segments within the small business audience, right? And this is a way that we view repurposing as a form of personalization. Now, this matters in a best answer context because it allows you to be efficient with the content that you have created and being the best answer for those sub and micro topics. that are super, super niche for people who are looking for solutions. So a couple of key steps to a modular approach to best answer ingredient content. Well, that's a mouthful, right? First, you've got to deconstruct and organize your best answer content. So as you create a best answer content campaign, take a look at that campaign and pull out those individual facts, bring them into a spreadsheet and assign them with two keywords that they'll be relevant to. And then map those to future content initiatives, future niche micro campaigns or sub campaigns that you might want to implement, and get really specific with your industry segments, right? So again, with accounting software, we had broadly accounting software for small business, accounting software for small business in the retail industry, for small business in the churches. That happens to be one of the segments in this particular example, or something else. Here, let's go back. I got to look it up. Nonprofit and real estate. Thank you for accommodating my lack of memory there for a second. All right, let's move on. So a modular scenario can look like this. It can really take form in a lot of different ways. So it can start small with ingredient content that is assembled. So you're literally collecting facts or curating facts, and you're assembling them as a large asset. And then from that, you can break it down into themed assets. So you can take that large asset and make blog posts out of it, or an infographic out of it, or an industry article. And then you can break it back down into micro content, which you can then use to share through social channels, those individual blog posts, infographics, and industry articles, if that makes sense. And I think a lot of people follow this kind of format for repurposing. One of the other things that we've done is to go back and look at content and deconstruct it and pull out ingredient elements and bring it into a spreadsheet. So in this case, we've taken all the content marketing ebooks we've ever made, and we pulled out every single influencer quote and pulled it into a spreadsheet. And we bring in all the other information for proper citation, for the source of those quotes, as well as, and what you can't see on the screen here, are all the different keywords that are relevant to that individual quote. And by doing that, it makes it incredibly easy to create things like listicle blog posts or infographics, newsletters, ebooks, or even motion graphics. If I want to go back to this list and go, okay, everything here is about content marketing, so I need to find Instagram, quotes about Instagram and content marketing. I need to find quotes about ROI and social media and content marketing. Very easy for me to pull together when I deconstruct the information this way. And subsequently, I can become almost easily the best answer for that very niche topic. And it's very easy, or it's a lot easier at least, for me to construct that kind of content. So by consistently publishing best answer content, you can create momentum in your industry, and you can create affinity in your industry at being the authority on that topic. And that can start to help you realize inbound PR or earned media benefits, right? Because not only will buyers of your product or services come to know your brand as the go-to solution, right? Because every channel they spend time on, there you are again, providing easy to find, useful information about their information need. But journalists and bloggers and people in the media will start to come to that conclusion as well, and they'll start to reach out to you for unsolicited media coverage, doing interviews with your executives, or quoting things that you've published in their publications. And that is the ultimate link to get. That is the ultimate signal of credibility, is when you have editorial mentions in industry publications. So from a measurement standpoint, we follow a very straightforward model: attract, engage, convert, right? Making sure our best answer topics and content are accountable to their ability to attract the right audience in the way that the audience cares about, to create an engaging experience for them in the way that they expect, and also to give them the signals that will trigger them to take the action we want them to take. Obviously, pulling all that data together is insightful for optimizing the performance of your programs. So there you go. Some takeaways as we close things out. Start to think about how you could be the best answer for the topics that matter, not just to you, but to your customers. Do the homework and start creating that content and cover it deep. Go A to Z as is reasonable for your resources. Be customer-centric. There's no better way to be relevant than to be relevant to customers. Search engines can follow. But search engines are important, so make sure you're doing all the best practices when it comes to SEO. What great is content if no one can find it, so you've got to promote. And too many people are forgetting the marketing when it comes to content marketing. It's not about creation, it's about creation and promotion. And obviously, you've got to create those triggers that will motivate people to take the action you want them to take. You always have to make sure with whatever content you create that you give them what to do next. And there we go. As Susan said, we've published a lot of content on our blog, so we've covered this topic in depth. We have our own power pages at toprankblog.com and toprankmarketing.com, so feel free to check those resources out and or ping me directly with questions. Speaking of questions, I think we have some time for some questions.
Super, Lee, that was amazing. I've been like jotting down notes and quotes, and yeah, great stuff. Repurposing as a form of personalization. I never put that together before. That's really incredible. I won't take the time to list out everything I learned. I'll get straight to the questions. One person, Gina, is asking, do you use a tool for for repurposing content? Are you just using a spreadsheet, or are you using some sort of third-party tool to do that analysis for you?
In my presentation today, I was using Google Spreadsheets as a way to archive those content elements and to tag them. And it would be awesome if there was some software that would do this. It would be, and it might even be straightforward to create. It's not something we've tackled yet, though.
Okay, great, thank you. So that's the content recipes page. That was the spreadsheet, I think. Let's see, someone was asking if you could go back to the power page. I think they wanted to see part 2 of the power page. Maybe you can just pull that up for them. And so question.
This part?
Yeah, it was the 2 of 3 that people were looking for. Yeah, there you go. Yep. Super. And then while people are looking at that, a question is, when you survey or research customers, what's the best way to do that? What platform do you do it on? And then how do you figure out the persona of the customers who are actually interested? Can you recommend any tools for persona development?
Okay. So those are a couple of questions. And the first thing, I probably want to get customer insights relative to customer segment or persona. And there are lots of tools, and there are consultants who specialize. The consultants I know, like Ardith Albee, who do persona consulting for B2B companies, and she is at the top of the game when it comes to consultants in that area. She's literally talking to customers. She's actually interviewing and having conversations with customers. So the tool there is having some insight around how to surface the pain points, how to characterize the experience and preferences from customers through actual conversation. So that's probably the most expensive way to go about it. When it comes to customer personas, obviously there are methodologies. That's a whole nother presentation, really, in identifying those common characteristics amongst a group of customers. When you find those common characteristics, you create I forget the word, but obviously a persona, but an archetype of, okay, we've got 10,000 customers who have these 12 common characteristics, so we're going to call them Jane. And Jane likes to do this, and she does that, and we use that as inspiration for creating our content. When we have that persona created, part of that will come the opportunity to actually survey real customers who match that persona, and then ask them the questions like, how, if you were going to search for us, what would you search for? When you think of our solution, how do you think of us? And we do those sorts of things. Outside of that primary research, one of the things I recommended is just going to secondary data. Go to your web forms that you've had completed and actually analyze that text. And there are tools like Google's natural language processing tool that will actually surface the most commonly occurring topics that are popping up in those 1,000 forms that you pump into it.
Yeah, I think that's great. I did put a link to the Google natural language processing in the chat box. So if you're looking for that later, you can find it. Are you up for taking one more question, Lee?
Sure.
Okay, so this is, let's see. Uh, it's difficult to get all of these things done. What do you suggest on how to get the best content which other authority sites would want to connect to? So could you speak a little bit to creating content that's going to generate links from authority sites?
Well,
Just a
you
little
know,
bit.
yeah. What do they call it? Skyscraper.
Yeah.
You find the gap in the industry, and you make something better.
Hmm.
So when you find the best ranking content, um, you can create better content than that, but you find who's linking to that content and you make even better content than those sources. And then you go to who is ranking number 1, 2, or 3 and go, hey, I see that you're linking to this resource. We've created a new version because the old source you're linking to is broken, is outdated information. We've got an even better version.
Hmm.
I'm being very I'm not very eloquent and charismatic about how I'm describing that, characterizing that, but make something better than what's out there already. That's the way to earn links.
Yeah, that's super. I have so many notes written down, and we are out of time, so I don't want to keep people here any longer. But
Thank you,
this is,
everyone.
yeah, this has been such a great presentation, Lee. And everyone, you can look forward to getting the recording. And I am going to, as soon as this is over, look through all the notes that I took and develop some plans around it. So thanks so much for providing so much insight and making it really useful by displaying kind of your process and how you work with this topic. So thanks so much,
Awesome.
Lee. I appreciate
Yeah,
it. Thanks
thank you.
everyone who joined us today. Have a great afternoon.
Bye.
Bye everyone.